Right. We are live. So, hey, everybody, Chad Taylor here. Got a fantastic guest for you guys tonight, Carlos Peguero. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing his last name right. Is that
It's good. It's good.
okay? Well, oh, hang on. I got this thing on loop. There we go. We're live. Sorry, I was on a loop. All right. So, I am super pumped for this guest. Carlos, he really early on, you know, I remember he was supporting my book and I didn't know who this guy was, but I could just tell instantly there was a connection with him that he and I, not only on the subject of what the Bible says about earth, but also I could tell with video and photo work and all this kind of stuff. Just there's a lot of times you can tell you just have a connection with this person. Well, Carlos is definitely like that for me. He lives in Florida. I'm in Seattle, so there's a 3 hour time difference and a handful of thousands of miles, but just an instant connection. And so I'm pumped to have him on here. He's got a YouTube channel and he'll talk about that. But we're just going to have a conversation here. Figure we'll go up to about an hour. And looks like Nate Wolf is on here. Nate, good to see you. Good to have you on here. You just came back from Skyfall, and thanks for being on here. And so if you guys got questions or anything as this goes on, there's a handful of people watching. Just feel free to shoot them on the side, and maybe type question in all caps or something so we know that you have a question. And if you wouldn't mind, just save the questions for a little bit later. Give it a little while, but feel free to shoot them our way, and we'll discuss those. But this is my first time chatting with Carlos, and just been looking forward to this. So, well, without any further ado, here's Carlos.
Thank you, Chad. I feel the same way. When I saw some of your content, especially when it came to I think you did an interview early on with Rob Skiba, and I came across it, and I was like, man, I feel like this guy thinks on the same lines as me. You know, he took a lot of homework and processed it and learned a lot of different aspects when it comes to how to create a video and how to do stuff. So I started seeing that stuff. I just definitely related to you. I definitely want to pick up the book because I got two little ones. So my son he's already on the same page as me. So I wanted to share that because I just thought that the book in general just seemed to be exactly what I wanted to show him so that he had something to refer to, not just daddy saying something, but hey, here you go. Let's look visually and let's look at exactly what these verses say and how is it painting a picture. So your book was really inspirational in that aspect because I was able to really, let's demonstrate what the Bible says when it comes to this topic. So you don't just, I know you want to be like me, buddy, but let's take a little further. I want you to know what you believe, So I have to say thank you for putting that book out. But yeah, I feel the same way, man. I came across your content and I seen, you're definitely separating yourself from the average, I don't want to say truther, but just someone who's trying to produce higher quality content and is just trying to make sure that first impression, they're not thinking about, oh, his mic sounds a little off or his picture is not as good, but they're like getting everything right off the bat. So I want to say thank you to you for stepping your game up because you know how it is, man. First impressions are everything in this community.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. That's for sure. And not that you have to have all the latest, greatest gear, but it's just important to know little tips like you talk about. Just is the audio right? Does your background look all right? Just little tricks to the trade that are helpful so where people aren't distracted and they can focus on what you're saying and not some hairs hanging out of your nose or something. But now you said you got two little ones. So I'm just curious how you're married, right? With two kids. Is that right?
Married with two kids. I have a boy and a girl, born on the same day, 7 years apart. So
wow.
Yeah, I can't take credit for that.
Yeah, it'll save you some money in birthday parties, probably.
Oh yeah. So. Especially since my older son, he's 9 now, so the other one's 2, and he's like, all right, we got to baby the baby, so she gets most of the stuff now.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. And let's see here. as far as what do you do for work as well?
I'm a professional barber. This is something that I've been doing since I was 11 years old, actually. So I kind of stumbled into it when I was young, and it was just like definitely a God-given gift. Like I learned how to do this with nobody teaching me. It was just like something that I problem solved in my head, and I never really thought it was going to be a career. If you would have asked me earlier, it was just like something I did, and I made money on the side when I was like younger. Um, but God had other plans. You know, he definitely, you know, when one door closed, another one opened, and I ended up falling into this as a career. I like what I do. I don't love it at times, but you know, it just depends on the environment you're in. And for the most part, like I work in a real good shop, so I get to talk to a lot of people. I get to have a lot of interactions. I get to let them know, you know, how the earth is flat, you know, what the Bible says about it. So it's one of those things. I don't really produce a lot of video. I should try to figure out a way to record those conversations, because some of those conversations are like, you know, I look back and I'm like, man, like to see where I started out telling these people some of these subjects to where I'm at now, how much more comfortable I feel and more confident I am in how I approach the subject. It's like day and night, but I think it would help a lot of people if I did record that, you know, even if it was just audio, because you get a lot of uh, the people who at first they kind of laugh at you, but they're in my chair. You know, they can't go nowhere. So by, you know, the 15-minute mark, they're kind of like, well, maybe that isn't so dumb, you know. And then you can see the light bulb and the little gerbil start rolling around. So yeah, I enjoy that aspect of it because I get that one-on-one interaction with people. So maybe I'll figure out how to record that one day, obviously with the permission. But you know, I think it would be cool for people to see that aspect of it. That's one of the things I do like about my job, is having that interaction with people. Especially since I'm not necessarily like the most outgoing person, it's definitely gotten me out of my comfort zone and been able to express a lot of these topics that seem taboo in most cultures, and especially ours. Like if you go, you know how they say, you know, talking politics, religion, or conspiracy, you could say in barbershops, but you know, I don't care. I'm gonna let people know how I feel and what I feel at the time. And a lot of people, you know, they see that you're not trying to bash them over with just information, but you're actually, a lot of the things I do is like I make them pull out their phone. Hey, let's go to Google. Let's look at Earth images. Let's see what you find. And by having them actually use their phone and Google and press flat Earth and see things, you'll it's a big, like the way they look at the end of the conversation is like, man, for real. Like, now you got me wanting to go watch videos, and I'm like, all right, there you go. And I start sending them links to a bunch of videos. And
well, and I can tell, I can just tell from your personality that you're doing it in a way that is respectful and just a very, you know, communicative way. And, you know, it's kind of, like you said, sharing the subject with people tends to get us out of our comfort zones. And I've actually recorded myself on video making phone calls, you know, and presenting, you know, this topic and especially my book to people. And I did, you know, the recent video about how to share biblical earth. And so there's that example, but I've recorded other calls and but it's one-sided. I don't, you know, I feel a little bit off. So I kind of know what you mean as far as that goes. I like to be the example for people just like you do, as far as how to talk to people and how to show people what to do. Because if people haven't seen maybe how to bring up the subject to people, they don't really know. So it's helpful. So I can tell you got a good personality for doing that. And real quick, I just want to say hi to everybody in the chat room here. We got Nate, we got Rin Tin Tin, Marla, and we got Michael and Joe Garcia. Good to see all you guys in here. I'm sure there'll be more popping in here. And so, Carlos, how'd you get into this subject? I'm curious. How was it?
You know,
was it it's probably, you know, Flat Earth Clues maybe, or probably Rob Skiba, if I had to guess.
Definitely Rob Skiba, but if I take it to the original, and this I'm gonna try to condense this so it's not like takes up the whole conversation. But Do you remember the movie 90 Minutes in Heaven?
Oh yeah. Yep.
I think that was around 2000, late 2014 or something, maybe 15, somewhere around that aspect. Well, I was left so disappointed at that movie because like they showed like 3 minutes of what his experience like was in heaven. I'm not saying that's bad, but that's what I came to see. Like, let me see what their interpretation of what heaven looked like coming from this story that this guy told is supposedly real. I mean, I thought it was real. I thought his experience of going to heaven, dying for 90 minutes and going to heaven experiences, I thought that's what the movie was about. So when I left the movie theater, I was so bummed because I was like, they didn't touch on this supernatural aspect of, it just showed his struggle. So because of that, there was like this fire lit under me that I wanted to know more. So I started typing in, maybe I can hear his testimony because I heard it years prior. So I went on YouTube and I typed in 90 Minutes of Heaven, came across him doing an interview. Well, that led into a full day of just listening to a bunch of videos about what do they call those, NDAs or something like that, near death experience. And one of those videos, because it was just playing on like auto, like it was like the next thing became they're hiding God with the greatest lie, and I was like, all right. So I'm listening to it and I hear, after an hour and a half of listening to this guy talk, I hear flat earth. I was like, did I just sit here for an hour and a half and listen to somebody say flat earth about what? Oh my God, I hate YouTube. Oh, so I turned it off and I was like, I'm done with this. Lo and behold, that was a seed planted, because months later, I kept on this journey and of researching biblical topics. It came to a point where I just remember like really praying to God and saying, I feel like there's a calling around. I feel like you're trying to show me something. So I want to be open to it. I don't want to shut down any topic. I want to be open to whatever it is that you want me to see. What is it that you want me to see? This is around 2015 now. And obviously, as I said that, I started coming across Nephilim research. And because I remember hearing somebody say Nephilim, I'm like, I know I heard that word somewhere. And it came that I was listening to some guy's testimony. And he started talking about Nephilim. And so I was like, I'm going to focus on that word. Let me do a Google search. What is this? Oh, giants. Okay, go back on YouTube. Obviously, whose name comes up? Rob Skiba. Rob Skiba's. Now I'm sitting there for, I want to say, the better part of another 4 or 5 months listening to a bunch of as much Nephilim research I can get my hands on. I mean, I'm going nuts. Because I'm a barber, I can have one of my ears listening to something while I'm talking to somebody. At this point, I'm not talking to nobody about any of this stuff because I'm just absorbing all the information. So I'm just listening to podcasts. I'm listening to all the stuff that Rob Skiba has to offer, plus other individuals like L.A. Marzulli, you name in the circles that we know about these people. So I come across a video, obviously, and it was from Now You See TV, and it says flat earth. So I was like, no, why? I'm just getting so much respect for this guy. Like, why is he going to talk about something so dumb? So I was like, you know what? The one thing I do know is that I pray to God and ask him to reveal stuff to me. And he showed me so many amazing things. Let me just hear what this guy has to say because I respect his research. So it gets 20 minutes into it and he has me like scratching my head like, yeah, how the heck can you see that far? Wait a second, I live in Florida. Like everything's flat over here. Like oh man. So I was super nervous because I knew what I was hearing was true. I just didn't want to admit it to myself. So I researched this thing for like 6-7 months straight nonstop every day. I mean, I worked like, 10, 12-hour days sometimes. And I have my headphones on the whole time, and I'm just listening until I have a client that's like wants to talk. But for the most part, I was just like in and out of conversations, like listening to, absorbing all this. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so crazy. I can't believe like I'm actually starting to believe this stuff. So after like 6 months, I was 100% convinced. It was just now like, how do I explain this to people? And part of me, I wasn't convinced necessarily just because he was so good at speaking this, because prior to that, I had a lot of, I already had a YouTube channel, which I learned how to edit, I learned how to do some graphic work and stuff like that. So I knew the ins and outs of how how easy it is to create something out of nothing. So I had that, took that experience, and I started applying to everything that I was hearing from all these different presenters on YouTube. And I started realizing like, wow, like I can make a picture of the earth. I could do a lot of Photoshop work. I can do editing. I can do this. And at the time too, there wasn't a lot of good YouTube content. The only one besides Rob Skiba at the time, and what I mean is not good content, because there was good content, it was not a lot of high quality, high production stuff. So I prayed about it, and I just felt like the Lord was like, all right, like you got these skills that you always wondered, why did you learn these things? Because prior to YouTube, I didn't know how to edit a video. I didn't know how to work a camera. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. So I came across this this opportunity to now use this stuff for the glory of God. And it was like, that only makes sense. All right, he did it when I was a kid, when I was cutting hair. So why is he not going to do it now? So I decided, all right, at the time, like my biggest influence as far as like content creation was ODD. So I said, he edits exactly how I kind of edit. So I'm just going to produce a video similar to that. And that's what I did. I mean, I worked on it for a few weeks, and then I produced my first documentary. And before that, everything I made was super short, 10, 15-minute little tech videos, like, oh, here's a microphone. This is what the microphone does. And this, so it's really simple. So this took me outside of my comfort zone, and definitely challenge me in how to like really bring this topic into another level. And it did fantastic. Actually, the video did great. And it just went from there.
Well, share everybody your YouTube name. Is it just your name, Carlos Peguero?
Yeah. Okay. It was, and that had to do a lot with like, because when you first come across this topic, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna come across this topic and make a channel. Like, do I use the alias? And then I remember, no, Rob Skiba doesn't use an alias. He uses his real name. He doesn't hide behind, some fancy. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take that, and I'm going to just use my name. Typed in, created a new account, and there we go. And so I did that. I just put my first and last name. I put it out there. I was nervous as heck. I mean, I remember the first month, I was like, before I even made a video, I was like, all right, I got to get my channel banner up. I got to do all this stuff. So I was like, committing to it by doing each step. And then finally I just worked on it as hard as I could and released the video. And I was like, oh, all right, here we go. And prior to all that, when I finally started like admitting it, it was like, the earth is flat. Like I remember sitting in my car looking in the mirror and just saying it to myself. Like that was the first step, just being like, yo, the earth is flat. Like I was just so nervous to say it around people. And then at that point in my walk, I just didn't know how to explain it to people. And at that point, I remember hearing other people saying, yeah, I would talk to people and they would get so upset. And I was like, why would somebody get so upset? That makes no sense to me. Well, lo and behold, I take a trip to Las Vegas because I was going to a convention center. It was a CES convention. I want to say this was like maybe 2015, somewhere like that.
And what does CES stand for?
National Broadcast Association, something like that. Or electronic. So it's got to do with the tech community and latest gadgets like smart fridges and all that. So like I was really like that's how I started my YouTube career. It's just in technology. So I was just absorbing all that. And I went there with 4 other friends. And in the process of like day 2 of the event, we got into the conversation about basketball and stuff. And one of my, what I called my friend at the time, he brought up, he said, dude, the way you're talking sounds like you're like a flat earther or something. Like you must believe like the earth flat. And he said it jokingly. And I was like, well, and I think that was a huge mistake because I didn't know how to defend it. My defense was, dude, you have to watch this 35-minute video. And he was like, 35 minutes video? Man, I don't have time for that. And I was like, but dude, and he's like, dude, right now I'm losing all respect. I could see the anger build up in someone who we're really close. And he just had this, like, it was like a spirit of anger. And he even said it to me. He's like, dude, I'm losing all respect for you. I almost want to hit you. And I was like, what? Like over flat earth? Like, dude, that's what I believe. Like, what is it? Why are you getting so mad? And like after that, so much stuff changed. Like I don't want to say I had a name, public name, like in the tech community, but people knew me. Like I knew a lot of the big channels. I used to have conversation with them, and I got bold with it. And I was open, but they started unfollowing me. They started I got the radio silence from people. They started making fun of me. And I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm going to stand up for what I believe. I started posting on Facebook. I created a Facebook account just because I had a YouTube channel. It was really mainly just there's people on Facebook. Here's some content that I create. I'm active, but I'm not active on Facebook. Excuse me. So after that experience, I was like, wow, this is real. Like there's a real spiritual influence when it comes to the subject. And it just opened my eyes even more. Like I know I'm on the right path because the way people are reacting to this. And it was difficult at the same time because I was losing friends. I had a few friends that would make fun of me, but they didn't like react the way he did. And he was supposed to be this Christian. Later to find out while we were on the subject, he was like, dude, men wrote that book. What are you talking about? I was like, oh man, you're not even a believer, man. This whole time you had me fooled. Wow. So it stunk, but it is what it is.
In hindsight, because this is a really good subject to bring up, is in hindsight, how would you have brought this subject up to people you're close to, people you see on a day-to-day basis? How would you bring the subject up to them?
It really just depends on the person. You really have to read who they are. Like, when it came to like my wife and stuff, she's not a believer in this stuff. She's like, you make some good points and there's some valid information you give, but I just can't see it right now. And a lot of that has to do with like, she knows everything about me. She knows all my flaws. So when you're telling someone that's this close to you something this big, it's hard for them to see what you're saying because all they see is your imperfections a lot of times. That's what I think, so it's like, well, dude, you're really not that smart, that you're so much smarter than everybody else when it comes to something like this. So it stinks, but at the same time, I can see it. This is a hard subject for a lot of people to wrap their heads around. So I can't be too angry, even though it is very frustrating, because you know how it is. When you get into the subject, you have to become an expert in almost everything at one time in order to get something like this across to people. So really, this depends on a base-to-base, because I have so much success outside of my home. So it's like, man, what am I doing wrong? And I think a lot of it's just me. I have to be more of a leader. I have to be better husband. I have to be better father. And maybe that will like show, hey, I get it. You're passionate about this, and let the Lord do the rest. Yeah. So for an individual person, that's the key, like knowing how to approach them, because you can't just spill it. Like I started learning that took me a long time to navigate through a lot of the false information and kind of ask the Lord for a lot of the discernment, you know, because that's the key to this. If you don't have a spirit of discernment, you can easily be fooled by a lot. And early on, you know, when you're doing Nephilim research and you're doing all this other research, there's a lot of like weaving it. You gotta, sometimes you get fooled and you gotta be like, wait a second, like, no, I gotta throw that away now. Now this out trumps that. So you have to really just judge it by an individual basis. And like I said, I have a lot of success outside of my, you know, my house, but I think that's the one I want to really, you know, I want to get, because it does cause friction in the home. And I get too passionate about it, and then it's like I have to learn to step back and be like, you know what, it's all right.
Yeah,
they're not there yet, you know.
Well, Rin Tin Tin in the comments says, "Give her time." You know,
yeah,
and I see things the exact same way you do, as far as, you know, when you go talk to strangers or talk to somebody you're maybe just acquaintances with that don't know you as well, we can almost carry more weight with a perfect stranger, because just like you said, they haven't seen all your flaws and all the stupid things that you did or that I did when we were little kids, you know, growing up. And so to me, you know, I feel the same as you. As the people that I'm closest to, it's like being the most patient with, you know, is I think an important tip for people. And then also, you know, what I like to do is just ask questions and keep it really simple. I like to keep the subject simple, and just like you said, is planting seeds. And, you know, a lot of people want to plant a seed, they want to water it, and they want to harvest within, you know, 30 minutes, you know, before dinner time. And it's like, it doesn't work that way, especially on, this is one of the biggest subjects, I think, out there. You know, if you were to ask somebody, what is something you know for sure, 100%, absolutely for sure, unquestionable, I would say we live on a globe would have to be the top one or two for most people. So we have to understand that it's a foundation that our lives are literally set on when you think about it. And you can't expect people to uproot their foundation, you know, overnight. And so I think it just really takes being patient with people and then having empathy and not being pushy. I've seen people, you know, I think you have a great attitude. I know Nate Wolf, and I know that lots of these other people, you know, have just had great attitudes. I don't want to get into name and name, sorry, but just the attitude and the empathy. And then I've seen some people that are just kind of pushy and rude. And that's not how I like to do things. To each their own. I think first and foremost, before you talk to people, you know, just on the subject, is pray about it. Maybe some people aren't ready for it. You know, like, you know, there's a lot of people that are close to me that I've given copies of my book to, but that are like people closest to me. And it's like, when they're ready, they'll start asking me questions, but I don't push this on people. I don't go to people that I'm close to and try to pound it into their head and try to convince them. You know, I move on, and I'm working with other people, and I'm talking with lots of other people. I'm talking with you, you know. So this conversation here is the most conversation. This is more of a conversation I've had with any family member except for my wife on this subject. So it's being patient with people you're close to. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
No, I agree. I agree 100% with that, because when it comes to this topic, you know, first of all, you have to know your facts. You have to be confident in what you're saying, because that's the first thing that they can see. Like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, because he doesn't even know, you know, how far the moon is or how far. And if, like, like I said, it took a long time for me to absorb the information. And then as much as I absorb it, now I have to put it back out there. So it was like, now use what you learned and let's see what happens. And then as I got more and more comfortable, it's like, at times it feels like I'm on autopilot now, because like I just feel like it's the Lord using it. Like, okay, he wants this person to know. I would say the people who I like to talk about this subject the most is the teenagers, because they're actually ready to receive it. They haven't been fully indoctrinated yet. And there's no peer pressure because nobody else is around. I don't talk where I'm going to like talk it so loud that everybody else is hearing. I talk it in a calm manner where it's just me and you, man. We're in a cubicle. Let's talk about this. And they're the ones that are the future of this whole topic. They're the ones who are going to carry this topic to the, you know, they're gonna find out more information than we have in these last 3.5 years. So like to see to see their eyes like be like open to something like this, and then as each week they come to like, please tell me more, and it's like, all right, now I need you to look into this, and then it's like to see that, and then they tell me like, oh man, my science teacher say started talking about evolution and stuff, and I was like, I bet she's just reading off a book. She doesn't know this stuff. Like she doesn't even realize what she's saying. I was like, the cool thing is pass your test, but you know the truth. You know what I mean? So I that's who I really enjoy talking. There has been a few cases where I had older gentlemen, because I'll have my laptop open and I'll have it on my station. And obviously, when I'm turning them around, I'm cutting their hair, they'll see a video and they're like, oh, what are you listening to? And a lot of time I'm like, oh, just some podcasts I'm listening to. I try not to, I try not to let them, because where I work is very judgy. A lot of old people, and they can turn on you in a heartbeat. So I had this one gentleman who was just like, what do you listen to? And I was like, oh, just a podcast. And he just kept saying, but like, what is it? It seems like this guy's real passionate. What do you listen to? I'm like, it's conspiratorial stuff. And no, but like what? Give me. And I'm like, if you really want to know, I'm gonna tell you, but you can't get mad. And he was like, get mad? Why would I get mad? I was like, look, man, the shape of the earth is not what we've been told. And he's like, what? I was like, I told you not to get mad, but here's some information. And by the end of the conversation and the haircut, he was like, I'm going to look into this because this sounds a little too crazy. All right, a couple weeks came by. He wasn't one of my regular clients. He was more of a shop client. And he walked in, and I was busy cutting hair. And he comes up to me. He's like, I took a look at some of the stuff that you talked about. It's very interesting. And I was like, got him. So you just never know. Like, you know, to me, that's just like when God opens those doors, he's going to open them and there's nothing you can do. I was trying to shut the conversation down, but guy was like, nah, you're going to tell this. He's old, man. He's really old. So for him to even come back and say that, it was like, all right, that guy must have been on this YouTube for a couple hours every day, because he didn't turn it down, and he just said it was interesting. I could tell that he kind of understood like there's more to it than, like all of us, you realize there's way more to it than we all thought.
Yeah. Well, and I think you bring up a good point too, as far as, you know, if you're an older person versus, say, like you said, somebody right out of high school, you know, people that saw the moon landings, you know, back in the late 60s, and that foundation I talk about gets stronger and stronger and stronger when you know, the more decades you've gone through all this kind of stuff. So I hear what you mean. I've talked to lots of people that have, you know, in their 60s, 70s that have had, you know, kind of a bit of a hard time peeling back the layers and going, well, okay, and kind of understanding how much of their life they've been lied to, and versus somebody like us that has had, you know, half that amount of time, you know, or so. And I do see all your camera gear and stuff, and that's pretty awesome. I mean, I think you got a even more complex setup than I do. Actually, I know you do. And that's great to see you're passionate about all that kind of stuff. I've seen your videos. And if you could speak to people that, let's say if they're getting started with a YouTube channel, let's say they want to get started, what are some basic tips you'd like to give them?
The first thing is you already have a camera. It's in your pocket, plain and simple. The second thing is the audio is really 80% of producing a video, especially if you're going to do anything that has to do with speaking in front of the camera or, you know, presenting anything. If people can't hear you, it's like a turnoff, like right away. People put up with good audio and terrible video any day because you can just stop looking at the person and just listen. But if you have great video and terrible audio, it's like, you can't get your message across. So one of the things that like I learned early on was like, you know, make sure you learn the audio aspect of it. And there's University of YouTube, you're going to learn anything and everything you need to know about producing content. And at first you're probably not going to have your own style. You're not going to have your own voice. But as you do it more and more and more, you're going to get to the point where you're just gonna realize like, wow, I'm being myself now. And that's the key, is to be yourself. Some of the best flat earthers are people you relate to. And the reason why you relate to them is because they're being themselves. And people can see right through someone who's acting and producing like this image that they're not. Like, that's the key, is being yourself. And once you do that, like, the rest will take care of yourself. Like, um, because I had a whole couple of years of just doing tech videos, I learned a lot about that aspect, like the tech side, like the cameras and if you look behind me, I have like a crazy setup, and that was not done overnight. That was years of, acquiring things here and there. I mean, the fact that I have it so you can see it, that was done on purpose. That was so there's an interesting backdrop. That's my main setup. That's probably where I would be, but I also have a really good second setup. So I was like, you know what? Let's make it more interesting. So those are little things you start learning, but the key is a good microphone. If you're not really handy when it comes to like what kind of mic to get, look for a USB microphone. Don't get an XLR microphone. I know I'm talking like in another language right now for some people, but a USB microphone is plug and play. Connect it to your computer, adjust the volume, and learn how to use the microphone. Because I see so many people using their microphones wrong. Like, the biggest one is like the Blue Yeti. People use that, and it's a side address microphone, meaning you talk to it through the side. But because it looks like an old school microphone, they point it this way, not realizing that the capsule is actually facing down now. So now they're like, I'm like, what are you guys doing? I'm just crazy like that, and I see people do that all the time. I'm like, no, you got the mic facing down, and that's just, people don't know. But still, as long as it's somewhat, you can hear it and it's clear enough, I get it. It looks better that way, but
well, I'm noticing too is that YouTube and Facebook, you can do live video directly to it. Like right now, we're going right into YouTube, and so if you have your smartphone, you could go from your phone, like you said, with a decent mic. And so I know there's other mic setups rather than just your earbuds. Even those I've seen decent audio, and I've heard decent audio from, as long as they're not rustling around and stuff when you're talking. And just, is there any channels in particular you'd recommend people go to learn more about this subject? Just kind of say if you're a beginner.
So to learn the aspects of creating videos,
because I know there's Think Media is one that I've learned a lot from. They got a lot of real basic stuff that are good. There's I know there's a lot more advanced channels people get into.
Think Media is good. I used to be subscribed to him, but just his personality, sometimes I'm like, I can't take it. That's part of the, like, it feels like he's like acting at times, and I get it. That's his thing, but like, I'm not learning from him at where I'm at now. But he does give great information, and he goes through basic. Think Media is really good. Like, if you're wanting to learn about microphones, there's one guy who like reviews almost every kind of microphones. I think his channel name's like Podcastage, and he just goes through like from the $12 mics to the $1,000 mics. He just reviews everything. And the truth is, I could name 100 people, but you really have to find a person who you can relate to and absorb their information the best. Like I said, I can name a bunch of people, but they might not fit what you're looking for. They might not tell you the way you learn. Like, I'm a very visual learner. So if I don't have someone explain to me with visuals, I get lost. So it's just one of those things. YouTube is filled with good content creators. I know you sub to a couple of guys I sub to, especially when it comes for photography, with the guy Fro Knows Photo.
Oh yeah,
I've been watching his stuff for years, and I learned a lot from him. From the photo stuff, he's not very much into the video aspect, but he has two guys that work for him that are like amazing producers, and I learn a ton from them. But it's just really navigating it. You have to make time for it. It has to be something you want to do because you want to get better at it.
Yeah,
because once you're this, you know how it is. This topic alone can absorb years of your life.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I'm sure you're just like me, is it's easy to get stuck in that tech rabbit hole where you just want, you know, and you spend way too long and spend way too much time and way too much money getting stuff you really don't need it at the time, at least. You know, it's funny how we need this latest crazy gadget, then it sits in the closet for 6 months. But yeah, I agree with you. Just stick to the basics, kind of know the basics. And that also, your shirt reminds me of this subject of biblical earth versus flat earth. And when you talk to people about this, I personally, I like the term biblical earth. Biblical cosmology is kind of a fancy way of saying that. I personally, I like to keep things simple. You know, I got my Montana shirt on. I'm a simple dude. Biblical earth. And because to me, that plants a question for most people. Well, what is biblical earth? You know, to me, it poses a question rather than an answer, like flat earth. Well, flat earth, it doesn't really pose a question per se. It's more of a conversation starter for sure. Yeah. But I personally, I don't have any problem saying flat earth, but when my wife hears the word flat earth, this is how she pictures it. She pictures flat earth as in, if somebody says that, it's like a sheet of glass, like perfectly flat, you know, no ridges, no nothing. Well, and she, you know, she said this before. Well, it's not flat because look at the mountains. We can tell there's mountains and valleys and canyons. And so you and I, we hear the word flat earth and we understand this earth is a big plane. You know, we get it. Yeah. But when some people hear the words flat earth, they picture just a sheet of, you know, so it's almost like with some people, you're already starting out, well, obviously it's not flat. There's mountains. I could see mountains from here. So to me, I prefer to use, like your shirt says, biblical earth or biblical earth. And, you know, rather than throw that around, to each their own. You know, I'm not going to argue the point with anybody because to each their own. I just prefer that. Some of my, you know, like I said, one of my videos was how to share biblical earth. You know, certainly coming at it from a biblical standpoint. But speaking of which, those are your shirts, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah, like, so I designed it. The truth is the inspiration came from Rick Hummer. Skiba always talks about him, and he told him one day, he told a story how he was like, dude, I understand this whole thing. You don't want to commit to saying you're a flat earther. He's like, don't worry about it. You're the flat earther, but you're really a biblical earther. And that always stuck into the back of my head. And so, yes, he coined the phrase. And the first thing I did when I started making these shirts was I was like, you're the first one I have to send this to. So I hit him up on Messenger, and I was like, dude, I need your address because I'm sending you some shirts. And then I sent one to Rob.
That's really cool. Here, pick up your shirt a little. I can't see it very well. Oh, nice.
And then, yeah, it has Psalms 19:1 on the bottom.
Nice.
And then, so I have a couple of them. And like, that's like my logo I put on it. It's just like a monkey with a globe to show how dumb like that frame of mind is. Like, they think we come from monkeys and we live on a ball. So
that's
I just
cool.
made fun of it, and I just made that as a little logo.
That's awesome. And you just came out with those recently?
So I've been designing them, but I don't like I don't have a place where I sell them. Like the other day when I posted, a couple people were like, oh, I want to get that. And I had to like design it again on Teespring and just like, here's the link. Like, I don't make no money off it. I'm not like, I just made it really for myself. Like, it's like my costume. If I make a video, I could just throw the shirt on. I don't have to worry about finding another clean shirt. It's just like, I have a bunch of these. So I made a few different designs, and it just depends on like my mood. But like, here's another one. So yeah,
I was trying not to make any noise because I don't want it to focus on me. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I made that, and like you said, they're conversation starters. But it's one of those things where I just like have fun, and when I'm not working so much and I don't have clients back to back, I'll just get on my computer and I just start like messing around, because it's one way for me to constantly challenge myself, especially when it comes to like Photoshop and stuff. One of the things I've done, I did it for Nate Wolf, Pastor Nate Wolf, Fired for Truth. I looked at his banner and I was like, hey man, I'm gonna make him a banner, and I'll just make somebody a banner. Like, I actually made a bunch of banners for a bunch of people in the community, and it's like, no, I didn't do this. Like, don't think that you have to use it. I just want you to know that I want your presentation when somebody comes to your page to look as good as the information providing. So sometimes I'll just go on somebody's page that I follow, and I'm like, man, maybe they need a new banner. So it's one way for me to keep my skills going and also provide a service for people. Like, hey, I think this fits you. I watched your channel enough. Here's something that I think might match your personality.
That's awesome. That's really cool. I mean,
it's cool, but I don't try to promote it, because a lot of times I'm scared, like, man, like, are they gonna like it, or like, the biggest thing is I don't want them to feel they have to use it. It seems like everybody does use it, but there's a selfishness. Really, it's just like, I'm trying to learn myself, trying to keep on improving. So yeah, I could take the pat on the back, but I'm honest, like, part of it is just me trying to improve my ability, at the same time as provide somebody with something that, like, somebody goes to their YouTube page and they're like, oh, this looks like a decent channel. Like, it's not just this blank blank poster on the front page. So it's cool. I like just doing that stuff. It makes me feel good because I know that they'll appreciate it. At the same time, it's just one of those things that, like, it's one of the ways I keep learning how to use these complex softwares.
No, that's great. I'll bet you probably listen to or watch Peter McKinnon's videos, I would think, huh?
So I used to, and every once in a while I go back, but like, to see how fast he grew, it started making me question stuff, and then I started seeing some symbolism in his videos. So I was like, oh man, like, did you really have to wear that owl hat again? Like, or you have like this pyramid in his background. I'm like, oh man, like, you know how it is. Once you're in this, you see all this symbolism all the time. That does that mean that person is, part of the cabal? No, but it doesn't help the situation that a person, when I first started subscribing to that gentleman, he was like 10,000 subscribers. And then a year and a half later, he's like at 1 million. And it's like, I've been doing YouTube for 7 years, and that's not easy.
Yeah, he's at 2.5 now, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, and he went into, like, I don't want to talk bad about the dude, but he also became like best friends with the biggest YouTuber, not in numbers, but in just, who I'm talking about, Casey Neistat. And if you just do a little research into some of these guys, I enjoy their content, not as much today, but I learned a lot from them. I learned a lot of, and that's what I started. I have these phases where I absorb a lot of information from people, and then I start looking back and I'm like, oh man, they're doing stuff that I don't really appreciate. Then I'll unsubscribe from them. But I always remember the stuff that I learned from them, because not everything is bad, but at the same time, it's like, now they're doing stuff that has me questioning, are they a part of this whole system, or are they, because no one just climbs that fast.
Yeah, he's got some good videos for sure. I've learned a lot from him with Photoshop and Premiere and all that kind of stuff.
He has, it's like his ability to just create video content and produce how-to videos. It's really second to none. It's that quality is there. His information is there. He knows how to deliver it. He has great personality. All these things, you're like, why would you? But sometimes I try to listen to the, to the Holy Spirit. And it's like, sometimes like, all right, you're cool. You got enough information from him. Let's move on to the next guy. And that's kind of where I'm at with some people. Yeah. But like this year has been, I would say, and I don't mean to interrupt you, man. But this year I've gone through these peaks and valleys where, like, the first 2.5 years, I gave up all sports. I was like, I don't want to do I don't have nothing to do with this. That stuff doesn't matter to me. So now I started watching sports again, not because, but because some of this information can wear on you. So I realized like I still need outlets. I still need to be able to sit down and be like, all right, like let me just wind down and like mellow out. So I'll go to the movies once or twice a week. That's one of my biggest things. I love going to the movies. And a lot of it nowadays is like I want to find what I can find out next about what they're talking about in this movie. Like what is the real message behind what they are trying to express in this movie? And lately it's been driving me nuts because there are so many movies starting to push space at a whole nother level. I mean, a whole nother level. There's a show, and I hate to mention it, but I think people should watch it because, and this is going to go on a small tangent, but there's a show called The First, and it's on Hulu, and it has to do with the space program and them going to Mars. And if you watch the show, besides being mad, it's great content as far as how it's the production value, the quality. Sean Penn is like the main actor, and in this show, he is jacked up. He is swole, and every astronaut is in top peak physical. I mean, they look amazing. They look like they all do CrossFit, and their IQ is like 3,000 or something like that. And then you look at our astronauts and they're sloppy. They can't even talk half the time. It's like, how come people don't look at a show like this and then measure up what they portray as an astronaut in today's day and be like, wait a second, this doesn't even look the same. Like this guy looks like he can come up with the next calculation to solve the next, craziest complex whatever. Wow, this guy can't even speak English half the time, and he doesn't even know if there's stars in the night or not. Like, so I look at that and I'm like, wow, these people. So sometimes I'm like, should I make a video about this? And then I just get lazy and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go to sleep.
Well, there's so many topics to make videos about. My list of to-do videos is just growing and growing and growing. Yeah, there's the First Man coming out right in the theaters pretty soon. I'm definitely gonna make a video on that. And like you said, it's the same stuff getting in your face. So, well, right now we're winding down. We got a little bit of time left. Let's see if anybody has any questions in the comment section. I want to go through too and say hi to other people at Level-Headed Living.
Yes, I see everybody saying hi to me, and I appreciate that, and I want to say hi back. I just didn't want to interrupt like our conversation.
Oh yeah, no, that's good. I wanted to stop. No, I totally agree. So, Effed Up World, I know who you are. Good to see you guys in here. Let's see. I know there's some other people I saw. And Casey Gonzalez, good to see you in here. Hopefully I didn't miss anybody. Thanks for taking the time out. Thanks for, listening. The timing of the first is suspect, says Michael. Yep. Yeah, that's interesting. That's the first time I've heard of that show. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a fantastic show. Obviously, we know the truth, but it's one of those things that when you're awoke, when you're awake to this stuff, you can watch it. It'll get you mad, but at the same time, you'll find some entertainment aspect. And like I said, I might make a video about it, just kind of on what I touched, what it has to do the contrast between how Hollywood portrays, astronauts compared to real supposed astronauts, and it's day and night, Yeah. And it's like you said, that new movie, The First Man. Funny, they're using pretty much almost exactly the same title. And to me, that a lot of that has to do with what the community's been saying for the longest time, which is like, there's never been a moon movie about, and now 3 years later, here's a movie starring one of the biggest Hollywood stars in Hollywood, and it's probably gonna break box office, and a lot of people who are on the fence, this could tip them over back to the ball, so it's just, we're gonna have to work double time.
Yeah, well, it's great to see that this movement is causing that. And I like to think about, is it the spiritual aspect or is it the human aspect that is, behind the scenes? And I think it's definitely a mixture of both. So real quick, I didn't say hi to Joe Garcia, still in here. Emily, hi Emily. And let's see. Level-headed living. Yes, I know who you are. Just you live local, right near where I'm at. So thanks for being on here. Good to see you. Let's see. Let's see. Joe and John made a. Let's see. Guys getting finished. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So effed up world. So that's Joe and John Foss made a live stream today on my channel, effed up world. So that's EFT up world is Joe's channel. Check that out on the Mystery of God. It's getting finished. Check it out. Many blessings. Flat Out Faith. Good to see you in here. Thank you. Astronauts probably were MK Ultra. I could easily see that. I could easily see this. So the mind control, like serious mind control. I think to some degree they are certainly, well, this is my opinion, that, you know, certainly lying, keeping secrets, you know, mostly Freemasons, ex-military, but then I could easily see mind control I'd be extremely surprised if that wasn't part of it. Yeah. Okay. I heard you have to be a Freemason or Eastern Star to be an astronaut, but I need to research that a little more. Yeah, I think you pretty much have to be a Freemason, and I don't know for sure, but it sure seems like Freemason, high-ranking military.
Some level of secret society you got to be a part of, because they're not just accepting anyone.
Yeah.
You got to be able to keep secrets somehow.
Yeah. You got to show that you can keep secrets, and then who knows what else, man? Who knows what else goes on behind the scenes? So, Michael, it took Hollywood this long to make a moon landing movie. What a coincidence. Well, I know, too, with Apollo 13, I was 12 years old. I remember it clear as day. My 6th grade teacher brought Apollo 13 in with Tom Hanks. We watched, the whole class watched it. And I remember being like, wow, this is so amazing, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen that movie. I've seen that movie.
It was in my top 5 movies of all time for the longest time. And then you wake up to this and you're like, oh, this Tom Hanks, why?
Isn't that the truth? Let's see. Yeah. Good points, Joe. And yeah, the whole spiritual aspect behind this, and there's so, like you said earlier, it's like, how do you explain this subject to somebody that's brand new? It's like, there's so much depth. The rabbit hole is just very deep with this. And so that's why like I said earlier, it's just my input is to keep things simple. If you're planting a seed, I like to plant seeds in a question. Simple questions. I'm not out to prove anything to anybody. I live my life. I speak the truth. I plant seeds. That's what I do. And sometimes somebody will come along that already had a seed planted, and I'll do a little bit of watering. I'll go doop doop. Okay, you're just getting going. That seed just got just got planted. Let me just drip a little bit of water on there. And I don't dump a 10-gallon bucket of water on it, on this little infant seed. You got to know, and that discernment, and in prayer. And a lot of times I'll have conversations with people, and as they're talking to me, I don't agree with what they're saying, but as they're talking to me, I'm praying, within myself, saying, God, what do I say here? What do I say to this person? And just trusting and asking for the words of what do I say? Do I say anything? How far do I go with this? And I think that's first and foremost, is to be in prayer and of asking him, what do I do? Because he can see their hearts. We can't, and so that's my 2 cents. Does water bend? That's a good one. I think that's technically our first question.
Unless you're pouring it into a cup, it's not bending. It always finds its level.
I think it's
when unmanipulated. Yeah.
I think that's a rhetorical question. But any other questions in here? A lot of comments, that's for sure. Bible says flat Earth. Why is the sun outside the dome in the pic behind you when God said he set them inside the firmament?
I'll say this. I think I know where they're going with that. And that's a lot to do with videos that have been, especially with that Go Fast rocket. They're like, look, it hit the dome. And it's like, if you're going to take the Bible literal, obviously it didn't hit the dome, because you could see the sun and the moon is above it. So it's obviously hitting something, but it's not the dome. And that's just comes with a lot of people. I don't want to say they're misleading you, but it's a good shock value when you put it in your title, and it seems like it hit the dome, but what it's hitting is not the dome. There's some sort of liquid, some sort of gas that's causing it. If you really sit there and look at it, it's not hitting a solid structure. It's hitting some sort of barrier that's like in a liquid form or a heavy gas form that we just don't even have a clue on, like, because we're never going to go up there and be able to touch it. So we just don't know. But yeah, you're right. One of the things that when I first seen a video like that is I realized, like, wait, no, didn't God say it was in the firmament? That looked like it was outside the firmament. And then you have to start realizing, like, okay, maybe that was a hit piece, try to get the clicks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you have to navigate and start seeing what's like good information from the bad information.
Yeah.
Especially if we're going to look at it from the spiritual side, the biblical side, you have to be like, okay, well, I don't know, have I seen the dome? Maybe, I don't know. Like sometimes you look up and you see a time lapse or something and you see the way the stars, everything move uniform. And it's like that, to me, the stars are in the firmament, not like sprinkled in, but it's like attached somehow to the firmament. Yeah. I think that's what's moving around us.
Yeah, and I think what he meant, and actually, as you were talking, I go, "Oh, wait a sec! I think he means me." Here, let me grab. He was referring to you're right, on the subject of.
Oh, that's
referring to
that's Yeshua.
My
yeah,
yeah. It's so that's from out of the book. That's here. If you can see, so that's a father. Right?
Yeah, that's the Father. That's the light of the Father. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Revelation and in Matthew 24. Here, 1 second. So you can see it a little clearer. It's
yeah.
Let me get my chair out of the way. So this is an image from the book. This is it's quoting Romans here, but it's the Father, and then Jesus descending after the sun and moon go out, and then all the stars fall to the earth. This is probably my favorite image out of my book, is that one. Awesome. But from back there, it was it certainly looked like a the sun.
Let's see. It's an amazing picture and illustration, but yeah, I could see how from behind.
Okay, hopefully it still stays there. All right, did that? Okay, stay. I know it's cockeyed now, but I'll fix it after this. I didn't think people wanted to watch me get that changed, but there. Let's see. And today. Yeah, it does look like the sun from back. Yep. Understandable. Yeah, that's one of my favorite stories where it talks about, the mountains falling on us and hide us from the one, that's off the top of my head. Basically hide us from Jesus, the one descending, and, hide us from the wrath of the Lamb, and then hide us from the one who sits on the throne. So it's like you can see both, as Jesus is descending, basically. So that's one of my favorite images out of the book. All right. Yep. It does look like the sun from back here. I agree. Let's see. Any other questions? Yeah. Thanks, Nate. Appreciate that. Did I miss anybody in the chat room? I want to make sure I acknowledged everybody. If I missed somebody, it kept scrolling through. So I hope I didn't miss anybody.
I appreciate everybody coming out to hang with us.
Yeah. Carlos, was there anything else you wanted to mention?
I mean, I feel like I've talked so much.
Yeah.
Really just, be in prayer about this subject, because it's not an easy one to be fully involved in. You definitely have to make sure that your spirit's in the right place, because it's easily, once you learn stuff like this, you can get puffed up with pride, and you start feeling like, yeah, I know this hidden knowledge that nobody else knows, and you have to, I had to check myself a number of times, where you just really have to be humble about this, because especially in this, if you produce content, you get all the hate mail that people want you to die and drink bleach and stuff like that. And you got to realize, like, they don't understand, like, you're trying to help them escape something that they just don't realize that they're in. So a lot of times I have to humble myself before I even make videos, because I can come up and start talking with pride, and just like that's another reason why I started coming up with the biblical earth, because um everybody's pushing just the new age flat earth theory, and I just want to separate myself from that and let people know exactly where I stand, because it's, that's what I was called from in the beginning, is to share this, let people know that as big as this is, that the truth is that there's only one real truth that people really need to know, and that's like having a relationship with Yeshua. If you don't have that, who cares if you know that the earth is flat? It's not going to save you. And it's a great tool to use for people, but at the end of the day, like, that's not what it's about. He's using this to wake up people who didn't even realize he existed. But what then? That's where I love seeing channels like Truth is Stranger to Fiction. I got to talk to him. He's amazing. Will's amazing. And I love that when he puts out the testimonial videos, because that is the truth behind this so-called movement. Like, to see people's lives change, people who didn't know who he was learn who he is and really be impacted in a way that, the kingdom is forever changed. And that's the key. That is what I'm starting to be more and more convicted about when I make my videos, is like, how am I benefiting the kingdom? Am I just giving some flat earth information? Like, it has to have more than just that. So if you're going to be in this community, make sure you realize, like, there's so much false doctrine that's being taught to so many new people, and it's harder and harder in these few days, this last year or so, that to get good information is not easy. As much as there's so much good information, it's hard to get to. And if you don't pray about it before you start watching some of these videos, you can get swept up in a lot of the personalities. And when you get swept up in the personalities, you get swept up into their ideologies, and next thing you know, you fall astray. So you have to learn how to navigate, ask for a spirit of discernment, and just really be humble about this information, because there was a time when we just didn't want to agree with this, and look where we're at now. So I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, no, very well said. Really well said. I totally agree with you. Especially, like you said, the one subject you really brought up was that the personality. Some people can, I've met some people where they could just, their personality, that you just believe the person. And how do you know what they're saying is, they're really charismatic and can really come across as like an authority. So just like you said, I pray about it, and I think getting into that point where you can do things that, oh no, instead of being like, oh God, I got this, I can, it's good to pump the brakes a little and, ask to be led. And, I think something simple, like, please block me from going a route that I shouldn't go, especially if it's something dangerous, and please open doors that you want me to go down, and just be in constant prayer over what goes in here, because what goes in here is going to stew for a while. And then before you know it, you don't want to be spouting something, some kind of lie, and leading somebody else astray. So effed up world, can we see Carlos's videos on YouTube? So go to Carlos Peguero, his YouTube channel. I think that's probably the place to go. I think that answers your question. I love the shirt. And so links for the shirt, if they want, would probably be in some of your videos, or maybe they will be in the future.
Yeah, I might have to, so one of the things with me is, like, I don't have a huge channel. I have, I don't know, 1,500 subscribers on this, on, my Truther channel, I guess I would say. So, and man, I struggle with that all the time. I have one channel that has, almost 13,000 subscribers. And then the channel that I'm trying to spread real message, has not as many, right? So I struggle with that, because, Lord, why do I not get more people to my channel? And then I also have to realize, like, do I want what comes with that. Am I in a place today that I can use that, and I can, and I'm ready for that? And so it's a constant, you know, constant asking the Lord, hey, how come, I'm trying to do this for you? How come I don't see the numbers? And then it's a humbling, like, maybe I'm not there, maybe I'm not ready. And I have to, check myself all the time. I mean, when you start doing these YouTube videos, you're like, oh, I want 100,000 subscribers today. And it's like, nah, it doesn't work that way. You have to be, in a place where like, where you know what to do with that. There's a lot of responsibilities when it comes to that stuff, and I have to be honest with myself. As much as I think I would make great content, I don't think I would be ready at today. I think the Lord has me right where He wants me, and if the day comes where He puts me on a platform, then great. That's when He has me there. So a lot of it just has to do with personal pride, and I'm trying to constantly humble myself, because there's days that I'm like, I feel like just stopping, and then there's days when I'm like, nah, it's not worth it. Like, who cares if you can get one person to see some of this information? That's what really matters, and that's where I'm starting to come to peace with it. It's like, if I get 50 people to watch and one person understands, then hey, that's what matters, because who knows where that person, God might use that person for greater things, and you were the catalyst He used. So,
and that catalyst to me is that humility, the being willing to do a whole bunch of work, and you don't get the flesh side in us wants this, acknowledgement or wants whatever, exactly. But it's that humility of being like, I'm willing to do this, even though, like, when I was doing the book, I was like, I'm willing to do this. I would just do it even if I knew it wouldn't even go anywhere. It's just because it needs done, and that's what I feel God was leading me towards. So it's like, now it's out of my hands, and so no, I agree with you. So it's great to be that example for others and to share. I love being able to share examples like this with, we can have a discussion, share our downfalls and share our triumphs, and just so we can help other people, overcome different things, or at least, because I know there's been so many great examples God has put in my life where these people that are just these incredible people, yet they're some of the most humble people I've ever met. Exactly. They'd pull over, they'd roll around under your car to get you going again, to, for a complete stranger. And so, thank God for these examples that we have. But we better call this tonight. I know it's getting late, your time, but appreciate you, Carlos. Thank you for coming on. Carlos Peguero, is his YouTube channel. He's on Facebook also. And I'm going to put links to his info in the description of this video after this goes up. And thank you all for being on here. Thank you all. I know there's one more that popped into the chat here. Meow M, whoever that is. Thank you for taking the time tonight. And if I missed anybody in the chat room, I apologize. But thank you all for coming on here. We'll chat with you soon. Chad Taylor and Carlos Peguero signing out. We'll see you next time.